Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for yet another video today. I'm super excited about today's video because we are introducing a new segment to the channel. It's going to be called Life Tactics. So you may or may not have noticed in my logo for my business, it has the name of the business and then it says Life Tactics. That is actually the part where I want to help people grow as people. I want to not only help people with their financial investments and things like that, I want to help them to be able to grow as people. I think that's the ultimate freedom that we can have, is just to be ourselves, and I want to help everybody to be able to do that. So that is what Life Tactics is going to be. The structure of the channel, it's going to be, I'm going to do 2 videos a week, Wednesdays and Sundays in the evening time, probably around 5 o'clock. The way it's going to work is one video will be about financial investing, and then the other video will be about life tactics. It's going to be called Life Tactics. There's not much else to say about it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Life tactic number 1 is going to be failure. You would be sitting there thinking like, failure? How is failure going to help me in any way, shape, or form? Failure sucks. Which it's not fun. But failure, you might want to sit down for this. Failure is a good thing. It's a good thing, or it can be a good thing. Failure, it's all about perspective. There's 2 different perspectives you can have. 2 different perspectives you can have on failure. Number 1 is the just perspective that failure straight up sucks. There's nothing good about it, and I hate it. That's perspective number 1. I know for myself that up until just recently, that was my perspective of failure, was just that failure sucked and I hated failing. But recently, that my perspective has switched to the second one, which is failure is a good thing. It is a learning tool. And if you begin to look at failure as a learning tool, you will see yourself start to learn and start to grow in ways that you never thought possible. You will see exponential growth. So it's going to be a lot more growth than when you look at failure the other way. For me, the first perspective of failure was really all I ever knew, whether it was sports growing up, whether it was school, just life in general. Failure was a bad thing to me. I didn't see it as a learning thing, and it ate away at me. But now that I have changed my perspective on it, it is making me better, and making me stronger mentally, physically, spiritually, everything. So it's crazy to say, but failure is a good thing. It's just, you gotta look at it the right way. It's a good thing. Failure is a good thing. Another thing is, when people hear failure, for a lot of people, especially when they're thinking about in business terms or just any type of exploration type deal, a lot of people think of failure as like, okay, they failed, it's over, they failed, that's it, it's done. But failure is not an endpoint. A lot of people see failure as an endpoint, but it's not an endpoint. It's a learning point. Failure is not an endpoint, it is a learning point. That is something that I've had to drill into my head, and I'm still working to drill it into my head every day. Because I'll hit these little bumps in the road, I'm like, oh man, this sucks. But then I'm like, wait, stop. There's a lesson to be learned here. And I end up learning that lesson, and it opens my mind to so many different avenues that were better than the way that I wanted to do it originally. That's another key thing. When you start to change your perspective of failure from it being just a bad thing to being a learning, to be a good thing, you're changing your perspective of it being a bad thing and changing it to be a good thing. You need to start looking at failure as a learning point and not an end point. Alright, so let's look at this chart real quick. So a lot of people see the starting point, which every journey has a starting point, and then there's this point down here at the end, the end point, which is your goal. But a lot of people think of failure as an early end point, but it's not. This is what it should be. You got your starting point, and you've got your end goal, and then you have all these little points in between. Guess what? Those are all fail points. You failed, but guess what? They're just learning points. They're not end points. So you got to keep that in mind. Another thing that you've got to come to realize and come to know is that you've got to expect failure. I'm not gonna say that failure is always there, but for the most part, in anything that you're doing, if you don't have little mini failures, there's usually something up. But you can get lucky, or you're just really good at what you're doing. But in most instances, you've got to come to expect failure to come. And I'm not saying you have to invite it, but just know you gotta expect it to come. And when it does, be ready for it and be ready to learn from it. Be mentally strong and mentally prepared to be like, okay, I failed. What can I do to not fail again? At least the same way. A lot of different things that come to mind with this is if you look at some of the biggest and most successful businesses in the world, and look at who started them, I guarantee you that was not their first business. It probably wasn't even their fifth or sixth business, because they failed. They had to learn from their failures to become successful. You just got to keep that in mind. Whether this is your first adventure or your 21st adventure, just know that everything's not going to be dandelions and roses. It's not going to be always the greatest. But if you prepare yourself mentally for the challenges ahead, for those failures, and prepare yourself to look at them from a learning standpoint, you will become successful. I can promise you that. That's another thing. A lot of people, when they start journeys like this, they want instant satisfaction, instant gratification. They want instant success. And I'll be honest, I was one of those people. I was about a week into this, and I was like, what the crap? Why don't I have more followers? Why don't I have more subscribers? Why this? And guess what? Old saying goes, good things take time, and they take time. But if you think about it in the long term, a lot of these successes and things then take a few years. But if you look at a big picture, 10 years compared to 50 years, that's a fifth of the amount of time. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes you'll have instant success, but most of the time it will take time to become successful. But if you keep your head down and stay strong and learn from your failures, you will become successful. And I encourage you, when you do run into failures, if you can't figure out why you failed or how to avoid the failure this next time, ask around, find people that have failed in the same area or have become successful in this area, because I guarantee you, they failed at some point, they just figured out a way around it. So, find people to surround yourself with to help you get through these failures and these learning points. So, with all that being said, there's 3 main things that you have to keep in mind when it comes to failure. You've got to change your perspective of it. If you don't already see failure as a learning point, you've got to change your perspective on it. If you see failure as an end point, you got to change your perspective on it. If you're not expecting failure, or if you know that you're not mentally ready for failure, you've got to become ready. You've got to strengthen your mind. You've got to strengthen just your ability to learn. Learning gets made to be this, I don't want to say bad thing in our society, but learning, we put learning in a box to just schoolwork. And to be honest, 75% of that schoolwork we don't use. I mean, I hate to tell you, let's be honest. How many of you have actually used Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492? How many of you actually use that in your day-to-day life? I know I haven't. In fact, that may not even be the right date. But I'm not saying school's bad. Stay in school. Just know that the learning that is projected to us is not the end of it. It's not all that there is. There is learning outside of the school system that is so much more there for you. And just keep that in mind. I know I graduated high school and I kind of shut the learning part of my brain off. I was like, I'm done. Learning sucked. I hated learning because, it didn't feel like learning to me. I found myself asking, like, when am I ever going to use this? It wasn't until I changed my perspective on stuff, on failure, and on learning that I start to really, really, truly learn. So, keep that in mind. Failure is inevitable. You just got to meet it head on and meet it as a learning point, not an end point, and learn to overcome that failure and not fail again in that same area. You've got the tools to do it. You've got the brain power to do it. You just got to train yourself, train your mind. You can do it. You got this. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this first life tactic. I enjoy talking about this sort of thing. I enjoy the financial aspect of it, but I also enjoy this part. I don't know why, I get hyped up about it, so I enjoy it. I hope you guys did too. Let me know down below or send me a message. Let me know what you thought of it. I really would like some feedback. I know I've talked to some of you outside, but I really, feedback is one of the biggest tools that I can use. Good or bad. If you want to tell me I suck, tell me I suck. This is your open invitation to tell me that you hate me and I suck. But please just do it a little nice. It's a little hard on the ego, but yeah. If you did enjoy it, I would appreciate it if you hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Just so you know, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Just create a Google or a YouTube account and you're able to subscribe for free. If you want to stay up to date with notifications and get notified when I post new videos and stuff, turn on that notification bell. It's right there next to the subscribe button. It'll just send a notification to your phone when I post a new video. I'll have my social medias linked below. Go ahead and follow all those. That way you can stay up to date on everything that's going on. I will also have a couple of my top products that I recommend just for daily life. Things that I've used to improve my life. I'll have those linked down below too. Just check them out. If you want them, buy them. If you don't buy them. But yeah. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.